My dear brothers and sisters, there is a problem. There is a great challenge before us, a challenge that is far beyond us. You cannot wait for these things to begin before you prepare yourself and your family. To avoid becoming a victim, you need to watch this message to the end. In this experience that was shared, dates were given and durations were revealed. Jesus, in his mercy, revealed these things so that you and your family may be saved. Please watch this now and prepare yourself for today and the hours to come. I want to be straight with you before I start. I am going to tell you something that happened to me. Something I still do not fully understand. I am 54 years old. I spent 22 years in the army. I worked for the City Emergency Management Office for another 10 years after that. I am not the kind of man who talks about dreams or visions. I am not the kind of man who stands up in church and says God spoke to him. Actually, I was raised in a church that believed God stopped speaking to people a long time ago, when the last apostle died. That is what I was taught. So when people would get up and say they heard from God, I would sit there and think to myself, either this person is not well in the head, or they are making it up for attention. I am telling you this because I need you to understand what kind of man is telling you this story. I am not a preacher. I am not someone who gets emotional easily. Mary, my wife, she will tell you. She has been married to me for 28 years, and she has maybe seen me cry 3 times. Once when my father died, once at David's wedding, and once the day I came home from Afghanistan with a broken back, and I could not even pick up my own daughter. I am a numbers man, a facts man, a show me the evidence man. So when I tell you what happened to me on May 14, 2026, I need you to know I am not telling you because I want attention. I am telling you because I have to. Because if I do not, something inside me will not let me rest. My back has been hurting for years, since Afghanistan. Some days it is just a dull ache that sits there like an old neighbor who will not leave. Other days it is sharp, mean, like something is twisting inside the bones. In the weeks before May 14th, the pain had gotten worse. I thought it was just age. 54 is not old, but the body keeps a record of everything you did to it when you were young. I figured it was the miles catching up with me. I did not think anything of it. But now, looking back, I wonder if the body was getting ready for something the mind did not know was coming. On May 14th, I was driving my truck on Interstate 40 between Nashville and Knoxville. I drive medical supplies to hospitals. That is my job. Now, it is quiet work, solitary. I like it because it gives me time to think. I was thinking about my daughter Sarah that morning. She lives in Florida with her 2 kids, my grandchildren. I worry about them. I worry about the world they are growing up in. I was listening to a country station on the radio. Something low and slow, and the road was straight, and the sky was gray and light. Then the pain hit me. It was not like the usual back pain. This was something else. A sharp, sudden pressure, like something had grabbed me from the inside and squeezed. It shot from my lower back straight up through my chest. I grabbed the steering wheel with both hands, and then I grabbed my chest. My first thought was heart attack. My truck swerved. I remember seeing the cars around me. I remember seeing the tree line along the highway. Everything started spinning, and then the light came. Not black, white, bright white. The kind of white that you cannot describe to someone who has not seen it. Brighter than looking at the sun. But it did not hurt my eyes. It felt warm. Warm in a way that went past the skin, past the bones, into somewhere inside me I did not have a name for. And then the road was gone. The truck was gone. The sound of the radio and the other cars, all of it, gone, completely silent, and I was somewhere else. I was standing on something that felt like glass, but warm, not cold the way glass usually feels. Warm like something alive. I looked down at my feet and I could see something underneath me, like depth, like I was standing over something that went far down, but I was not scared. That surprised me. I had been in war zones. I had been in places where real fear makes your hands shake and your stomach turn over. This was nothing like that. There was no fear, only this deep, settled feeling. Like I had arrived somewhere. I was always supposed to arrive. There were beings around me. I am going to try to describe them, but I want to be honest and say that the words are not enough. They were tall, much taller than a man. They were dressed in something that looked like light, not cloth. You could not see a seam or a hem or a button. It was just light, shaped around them. And they were formed in a circle around me. Many of them, more than I could easily count. The number that came to mind later, when I was trying to sort through it all, was that it felt like a company. A military company. That word made sense to me. There was order to them, precision, like soldiers who know exactly where to stand and why. They were not scary. I want to say that again because I know how strange all of this sounds. They were powerful. I could feel their power the way you can feel heat from a fire, even before you see the flames. But the power was not threatening. It was peaceful. That sounds like a contradiction, but it is the only way I know how to say it. Power and peace together in the same space. And then something changed in the air. The beings parted. They moved apart slowly, like a curtain being pulled back from a window, and someone walked through the opening they made. I knew who it was before I could see his face clearly. I do not know how to explain that either. I just knew. The way you sometimes know something is true before anyone has said a word about it. A knowing that comes from somewhere deep and sure. And when I did see his face, it was both exactly what I expected and nothing like I could have prepared for. He looked like the pictures, the paintings, the images on the walls of Sunday school classrooms and the covers of old Bibles, but alive, more alive than anyone I had ever seen, more real than the most real thing I had ever touched or looked at or stood close to. He smiled at me. Not a wide performed smile, just a quiet, warm, knowing smile. Like someone who has been watching you for a long time and is glad you finally made it to where they are. There was no judgment in it, no disappointment, no evaluation of whether I had been good enough or believed hard enough or shown up at church enough times, just that smile. And something in my chest loosened when I saw it. Something I had been carrying for years without even knowing I was carrying it. He did not speak with his mouth. Not exactly. It was more like thoughts being placed directly into my mind, like someone writing on a clean page. The thoughts came fully formed, clear, with no need for me to figure out what they meant. I understood everything as it came to me. The way you understand something you have known all your life, but never had the words for until that moment. He showed me things, one after another. Not in a confusing way, in order, clear. Like a briefing, I had sat through a lot of military briefings in my life. This had that same quality of precision. Someone who knew exactly what they wanted you to understand and was not wasting any time. The first thing he showed me was the Earth from space. Just the Earth, turning slowly, the way you see it in those photographs from the moon missions. It was beautiful, more beautiful than the photographs. Blue and white and green, quiet and spinning in all that dark space around it. I felt something when I saw it, something I can only describe as love. Not my love, something bigger. Like I was feeling someone else's feeling about it. Then a calendar appeared, the month of May. Not a fancy calendar, just a plain, simple calendar, the kind you would hang on a wall in a kitchen or a garage. And the date, the 29th, was circled in red. I say red, but it looked like blood, the color of blood. That circle was drawn 3 times, not once. 3 times he showed me that calendar, each time the same month, the same date. May 29th, 2026. He made sure I saw it. He made sure it stayed with me. Then the visions began. He broke what was coming into 3 parts. 3 waves is the word that settled in my mind afterward. 3 different events, each one connected to the last, each one harder than the one before it, for the people who were still on the earth when it came. The first thing he showed me, he called it the warning darkness. He showed me the sun, a massive explosion on the side of the sun that faces away from the earth. A coronal mass ejection, which is a cloud of charged particles that the sun sometimes throws out into space. I know what that is, I had read about it before. What the books describe as a possible event. He showed me scientists in their observatories, at their computers, at their telescopes, completely missing it. Not because they were not paying attention, because it happened on the far side of the sun, the side they could not see from where they were watching. He showed me this cloud of charged particles moving through space, heading toward Earth, and no one on the planet seeing it coming. He showed me the moment it hit. It was not fire. There were no flames, nothing dramatic that people would be able to look at with their eyes. It was invisible force, but everything that used electricity, everything that ran on circuits and chips and signals, began to die all at once. He showed me satellites in orbit. One moment they were there, the next they went dark, like candles being blown out all at the same time. The GPS signals vanished. He showed me the screens at air traffic control centers going blank. He showed me phones in people's hands simply going dead mid-call. He showed me the power grids. He showed me transformers exploding along power lines, big flashes of blue and green light in the night sky. and then darkness spreading out from city after city. Not a slow, rolling darkness, a sudden one. He showed me 40% of the world's electrical power gone in one moment. Then he showed me the people. That part was harder to watch. He showed me people going to ATMs, pressing their cards in, and nothing happening. He showed me crowds gathering outside banks that were locked and dark, because the computers inside were dead. He showed me people trying to buy food at grocery stores, where the registers would not turn on, and the refrigerators were warming. He showed me fear moving through crowds the way water moves through dry ground, fast and soaking everything. He showed me riots starting in the big cities. Not in every city, but in enough of them that the roads were blocked, and the stores were burning, and people were running. He showed me soldiers in the streets of 15 different countries, not 1 or 2, 15, under orders to keep people in their homes. He showed me martial law in places I recognized and places I did not. He showed me the hospitals. The backup generators came on. For a little while, there was hope in those places. Nurses and doctors thinking they had enough to keep going. But something in the electromagnetic pulse from the storm had damaged the generators. He showed them failing one by one within 8 hours. He showed doctors and nurses working by the light of flashlights and battery lanterns, running out of medicine that had to be kept cold, trying to do with their hands what the machines had been doing for them. He showed me patients, some of them already very sick, and the helplessness of the people trying to care for them. The sky did not go black. He showed me that clearly. It was not total darkness. It was more like a grayness, a dimness, like standing outside on a day when the clouds are very thick and very low, and the light never quite makes it through properly. Twilight in the middle of the afternoon. That permanent grey light over everything, while people below were panicking and fighting, and the grid was down. But then he showed me the mercy in it. He told me this was a warning. Not a punishment yet, a mercy, a gift of time. He told me that during this 24-hour period, anyone who turned to him, genuinely turned, not just said words out of fear but actually chose him in their heart, would be covered, protected, not necessarily from the physical hardship, but from what was coming next. He told me this was a chance, the last, easy chance before things became much harder. That word, mercy, settled into me. It was not the word I was expecting in the middle of watching cities fall into chaos. But that is the word that came. Then the vision shifted. Another calendar, the month of July. The dates July 3rd, 4th and 5th circled in that same red that looked like blood. 3 times he showed me this calendar. 3 times those same 3 days in July. He called this the Great Darkness. He showed me the sky again. This time he showed me another planet, large, very large, dark, moving through space in a path that was going to bring it between the Earth and the Sun. He called it Planet X. He also said a name that sounded like Nibiru. I had heard that word before. Years ago, in some article someone had forwarded to me that I had not paid much attention to. He showed me this planet moving into position. As it passed in front of the Sun, it blocked the light. Not all of it, but most of it. And then he showed me something else happening at the same time. Something that was not a planet or a storm or a physical thing at all. He showed me God himself drawing a veil across the earth, a thick, black veil, like someone pulling a heavy blanket across a window. A spiritual darkness laid over the physical one. 2 darknesses working together, one from the movement of a planet, one from the hand of God. He showed me the sun setting on the evening of July 3rd, and then not rising again the next morning, or the morning after that. 72 hours of complete darkness, from the evening of July 3rd to the morning of July 6th. As the darkness settled, the earth began to shake. He showed me the Cascadia subduction zone. That is a fault line that runs along the west coast of North America. Scientists have known about it for years. They have warned about it for years. He showed me a magnitude 9.2 earthquake along that fault. He showed me buildings falling in Seattle, buildings falling in Portland, buildings falling in San Francisco. He showed me the ocean being pulled back from the coast first, like a huge inhale exposing the ocean floor in places. Boats sitting on wet sand, people on the beaches, standing and staring at it, because they did not understand what they were seeing. And then the ocean came back. A wall of water 40 feet high moving fast. He showed me it hitting the coastline, everything in its path disappearing. He showed me the other side of the world at the same time. an 8.7 earthquake centered near Jerusalem and the Dead Sea. He showed me the ground splitting open across the Middle East. He showed me the dome of the rock falling, not damaged, falling. Then he showed me what was moving through the darkness itself. This is the part that is hardest for me to talk about. Even now, sitting here in my recliner trying to put this into words, I feel something in my chest when I think about it. He showed me that the darkness was not empty. Things were moving through it. Things that had always existed, but that most people had spent their whole lives either not believing in or pretending were not real. He showed me demonic entities, not in a horror movie way, not with red eyes and horns and all that, more like shapes, presences, real and physical in the darkness, in a way they had never been able to be in the light. He showed me people seeing them, with their own eyes, not in a dream or a vision, in reality, in the street outside their windows. He showed me people dying, not from the earthquake or the water, from the fear itself. He showed me their hearts stopping, just stopping, from what they were seeing. He told me something very specific about this period. He told me that his people needed to be in their homes, doors locked, windows covered. He told me not to look outside during those 72 hours. He showed me that angels were stationed around the homes of those who belonged to him, guarding them. But he also showed me what was happening outside those homes, in the streets, and it was not something anyone should look at. Then he showed me what happened at the 48-hour mark. He showed me cemeteries all over the world at the same moment. He showed me the graves of people who had died in faith, people who had believed in Jesus and held to it until their last breath. He showed me those graves opening, not violently, not like an explosion, more like something sealed for a long time finally being released. Light coming out of the ground, and then the dead coming up from the ground, but not the way they went in. He showed me transformed bodies, shining, whole in a way that the human body almost never gets to be in this life. He showed me this happening simultaneously across the entire earth. Then, at the 60-hour mark, he showed me something happening to people who were still alive. He showed me believers, people who were living, who had been faithful, who had not given up their faith even through the darkness and the shaking and the fear. He showed them being changed. In a moment, between one breath and the next, transformed, the same way the dead had been transformed, and then disappearing from the earth, just gone. He showed me this was the rapture, the taking away, the event that people had been debating about in churches for generations. But he also showed me something that was hard for me to process. He showed me people who called themselves Christians, but who had been living in ways that did not line up with what they said they believed. Living with deliberate, unrepented sin. He showed them being left, not taken, standing in the darkness while others around them disappeared. He showed me the shock on their faces, the grief, the horror of realizing they had known the right words, but had not made the real choice. He showed me the temperature dropping during the darkness, got cold, very cold. He told me it would drop to 33 degrees, just above freezing, and that it would be kept from going lower. A mercy again in the middle of judgment, but cold enough for pipes to burst. Cold enough for people huddled under blankets to feel it in their bones. Cold enough to be miserable. When the light came back on the morning of July 6th, he showed me what the world looked like. Empty houses. Cars stopped on highways with no drivers. Grocery carts left in parking lots. Shoes on sidewalks. Children's toys in yards. He showed me entire neighborhoods silent. Whole blocks where no one answered if you knocked. He told me that 30% of the world's population would be gone in those 72 hours. The resurrected dead and the transformed living, taken together. And in the world that was left, no power, no communication, no working infrastructure, and 70% of humanity trying to figure out what had just happened and what came next. Then the third calendar appeared, October. The dates, October 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th, circled in that blood red. 3 times he showed me this one too. He called this the final darkness. 4 days. 96 hours. He told me this darkness would be different from the others. He showed me that it would be thick.
Physical.
Not just a dimness or a grayness, but something you could almost touch. Something heavy in the air. He showed me people covering their noses and mouths because it would be hard to breathe properly. He showed me the cause of it. He showed me a war. Not on earth. In the sky. In the spiritual realm that overlays the physical one. Angels fighting. powers and principalities. Those are the words that come to me from Scripture, falling. He showed me that the debris from this spiritual war, the aftermath of it, would follow the tail of that same planet, Planet X, back through the Earth's atmosphere, creating a physical cloud of dust and gas that would sit over the whole planet. A choking, thick, unnatural darkness, both spiritual and physical at the same time. He showed me the evening of October 17th. As the darkness began to fall, he showed me fireballs, not shooting stars. These were large, burning rocks falling from the sky. He showed them hitting the ground, most of them in the agricultural regions, the flat open places where the food grows. He showed me fields of corn and wheat burning. He showed me 60% of the world's remaining food supply, already diminished from months of crisis, being destroyed in a single night. He showed me this was not an accident. He showed me this was the beginning of the final judgment on a world that had been given mercy after mercy and had still chosen to go its own way. Inside that thick October darkness, he showed me a system coming fully to life. He showed me that during the months between the July event and October, the people left behind, the ones who had survived and who held power in governments and financial institutions, would have been working, rebuilding, but not alone. He showed me beings coming to Earth who appeared as helpers, who appeared as advanced beings from somewhere else, offering technology, offering solutions, offering a way forward. He showed me that these beings were not what they appeared to be. He showed me what they were. And he showed me the technology they brought, a new system of communication and commerce, a new way for the world to operate after the old one collapsed. With this new system came a new requirement. He showed me the mark, an implant, small. He showed me people lining up to receive it. He showed me that those who took this mark would receive something in that October darkness. Their eyes would be able to see. Not fully, not like daylight, but he showed me their eyes having a faint glow in the darkness, a low light like a cat's eyes, enough to navigate, enough to function. And those without the mark would be completely blind in that thick, physical darkness, unable to see their own hands in front of their faces. He showed me the demonic beings again. In the October darkness, they were not just visible the way they had been in July. He showed me they were physical now, able to interact with the physical world in a way they had not been before. He showed me them hunting. He showed me the ones without the mark, blind, helpless, being found by these things. He told me the only protection was to be inside a home with oil marked on the doorposts. He referenced the Passover in Egypt, the blood on the doorpost, the angel of death passing over. He told me this was the same principle. He showed me angels guarding those homes. But outside, it was a harvest of a different kind. He showed me the water, what was left of the fresh water sources, rivers and lakes, turning bitter and undrinkable. He showed me people getting sick from it. He referenced something I recognized from the book of Revelation, the waters becoming wormwood, poison. He showed me people facing a choice, the worst kind of choice a person can face. Take the mark, be able to see, be able to buy food and water, be able to survive for a season, or refuse the mark, be hunted in the darkness, go hungry, go thirsty, and face likely death. He showed me what many would choose in that moment. He showed me guillotines in the major cities. He showed me executions. He showed me people who had been left behind in July, who had not believed or who had believed but had not truly chosen, finally making their choice, in the worst conditions possible, with everything against them. He showed me them choosing Jesus, refusing the mark, being killed for it. And he showed me something about those people. He showed me this was a harvest, the final harvest of souls. He showed me that their deaths were not the end of their stories. They were the beginning of the part that mattered. He showed me the air itself changing in that final darkness, the oxygen levels dropping. He told me that only those who had the Holy Spirit, the very breath of God living inside them, would be able to breathe properly, that everyone else would be slowly suffocating in the heavy contaminated air. He showed me that this was literal and spiritual at the same time, both things true together. Then the vision stopped. I was standing in front of him again. The beings were still in their circle around me. Everything was still, and I understood, without him having to say anything more, what the three waves meant together. The first one, the warning darkness in May, was a birth pain, the beginning of something, a mercy offered to the world, a last easy moment to turn. The second one, the great darkness in July, was a separation, the taking of his people out of the earth, the rapture, followed by a great shaking and judgment for those who remained. The third one, the final darkness in October, was the beginning of the end, the first chapter of the last 3.5 years. The time the Bible calls the Great Tribulation, each one worse than the one before it, for the ones who were left. He looked at me then, that same quiet, warm, knowing look. And then something changed. I was back. The first thing I felt was pain, my back, on fire, worse than it had ever been, and then impact. My truck was against the concrete barrier on the side of Interstate 40. The horn was blaring, stuck on, a sound that cut right through the fog in my head. My face was against the steering wheel. I could feel something warm on my forehead. The windshield was cracked in a long diagonal line. I could hear tires screeching somewhere behind me. I could hear people shouting. I tried to move, but my body would not cooperate. The pain was too much. Everything was slow and heavy and wrong. I saw faces at my window. A woman young with dark hair, her phone pressed to her ear and her face pale and wide-eyed. A man in a blue jacket trying to get my door open, pulling at the handle, saying something I could not hear clearly. The horn was still blaring, and through the cracked windshield, I could see the grey sky over Tennessee. Just an ordinary grey Tuesday sky, like nothing at all had happened. The last clear thought I remember having before everything went black was about a date. May 29th. The thought came to me very clearly, more clearly than anything else in that moment, more clearly than the pain or the noise or the fear. I thought, I have to tell someone about May 29th. Then I was gone. I woke up 3 days later, a private room, machines beeping in a quiet, steady rhythm, a TV on the wall with the sound off, a window with afternoon light coming through the blinds in flat yellow strips. And Mary, my wife of 28 years. She was in a chair next to my bed, asleep, with her head tilted back and a paperback book open and face down on her lap. I lay there for a little while, just watching her breathe before she woke up. I did not want to move. I did not want to break that quiet moment. I just lay there with the machines beeping, and Mary sleeping in the chair, and tried to figure out if I was actually awake, or if this was another part of what I had just been through. She woke up and saw me looking at her, and for a second her face just crumbled. Not in a dramatic way, just the way a face does when relief comes after a long time of being very afraid. She reached over and took my hand. She did not say anything for a minute. Neither did I. Then she said quietly, "They said you were gone for 4 minutes. I asked her what she meant. She told me. The paramedics who arrived at the scene of the accident had found me unresponsive. No pulse. Clinically dead. They worked on me for 4 minutes before they got my heart started again. 4 minutes. When she told me that, something went through me. I do not have a better word for it than confirmation, like a key turning in a lock that had been waiting to be turned. The doctors came in later that day. They were very kind. They explained what had happened. A massive heart attack, brought on likely by the combination of the ongoing back injury and stress on the cardiovascular system. They said I was lucky, that word, lucky. I heard it and I did not argue with them. They meant well, but I knew what it actually was. My back still hurt terribly, but my head was clear, clearer than it had been in years actually. Clear in a particular way that I noticed but could not quite explain. Like something had been washed clean. I waited until the next day to tell Mary. I did not know how to start it. I sat there in the hospital bed with the afternoon light coming through the blinds and my hands folded on the blanket over my lap, and I just said to her, "Mary, I need to tell you something. I need you to just let me say all of it before you say anything back." She looked at me the way she looks at me when she is paying very close attention but also bracing herself. She has that look. 28 years, and I know it well. She nodded, and I told her, all of it. From the moment the pain hit in the truck to the calendar, showing May 29th, to the 3 waves of darkness, to standing in front of Jesus, to waking up in the hospital bed, looking at the cracked windshield. She held my hand the whole time. She did not interrupt. She did not ask questions until I was done. When I finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then she said, in a very careful voice, like she was choosing each word one at a time, "John, your brain was without oxygen for 4 minutes. And I said, "I know." And she said, "The doctors said that kind of experience can cause vivid things." And I said, "I know that too." And we just sat there for a minute with all of that hanging in the air between us. She did not call me crazy. I want to be clear about that. Mary is not the kind of person who dismisses things quickly. She believed me that I had experienced something real. but I could see in her eyes that she was worried about what that something real actually was. Was it a vision from God? Was it her husband's brain doing something strange while it was starved of oxygen? She held both of those possibilities at the same time, because she is honest, and she loves me too much to just tell me what I wanted to hear. The next 2 nights were the hardest nights I have had in a long time. I was in that hospital bed with the machines beeping, and the night nurses coming in and out, and the TV on the wall with the sound off, and I was wrestling with it, going back and forth inside my head. It had felt real, more real than real, but I knew that near-death experiences produce vivid mental states. I knew that people who nearly drown or nearly bleed out sometimes report very similar things. Tunnels of light, figures, voices. I had read enough about it over the years to know that the brain does not give up without a fight. But there were things about what I had seen that did not fit the standard explanation. The specificity of it, the dates, the details, the calendar with May 29th circled in blood red, the sequence of 3 events, each one connected to the last, each one following a logical progression. That is not what a hallucinating brain produces. A hallucinating brain produces chaos, random images, feelings without form. This had been ordered, briefed, military in its precision. Still, I prayed. I had not prayed like that in a long time. I got down to it directly. No long speeches, no flowery language. I just said, God, if this is from you, I need you to show me. I need confirmation. I am not a prophet. I am not a preacher. I am a logistics man, and I deal in facts and evidence. If you want me to go out and say this to people, you have to give me something I can point to. Because otherwise, I am just a man who had a heart attack and a bad dream, and I am not willing to ruin my life and embarrass my family over a bad dream. The first confirmation came that same night. I fell asleep late, maybe 2 in the morning, and I had a dream. Not a vision like before, just a dream, simple and short. I was standing in a field, a wide open field, green, calm. A calendar page came loose from somewhere above me, riding the air, floating down slowly the way a leaf comes off a tree in October. It landed at my feet face up, the month of May. The date 29th circled in red. I looked at it for a moment in the dream, and then I woke up, heart pounding, sweat on my face. I told myself it was just my mind processing what I had seen before, replaying. My mind had fixated on that date, and now it was just replaying it in sleep. That is the rational explanation. I know that. I wrote it off and lay there in the dark until my heart slowed down. The second confirmation came the next afternoon. A nurse came in to change my IV. Young woman, maybe 25, cheerful in that particular way that nurses who are good at their jobs have, efficient and warm at the same time. She was making small talk while she worked, the way good nurses do to keep a patient's mind off things. She mentioned her son. He was 8 or 9, I think. She said something about being glad his school trip to Washington, D.C. was scheduled for the following week instead of this one. I asked her why. She said, the solar activity. She said it in the same way someone might mention traffic or rain. Just a thing in the news. She said there had been a big eruption on the far side of the sun a few days ago, and the scientists were saying there could be disruptions to communications. They were warning people that some satellites might be affected. She said they were expecting unusual aurora activity, possibly visible as far south as Florida or even Texas. She laughed a little and said, "Can you imagine seeing the northern lights in Florida?" She kept talking. I do not remember what she said after that. I was not hearing her anymore. My heart had started beating very fast and very hard, not painfully, but urgently, the way it does when your body recognizes something important before your mind catches up. A huge eruption on the far side of the sun. Not visible from where the scientists were watching. Communications disruptions, auroras appearing unusually far south. That was exactly what he had shown me. Not a version of it. Not something that could be loosely interpreted as similar. The exact thing, the exact mechanism, the far side of the sun. The things people would not fully understand until after it had already happened. I sat there for the rest of that afternoon without moving much. Just sitting with it, trying to be careful, trying not to leap to a conclusion just because I wanted it to be true. I had been in enough situations in my life where wanting something to be true had made people overlook evidence that it was not. I had seen that mistake made in the army. I had seen it made in emergency management. I was not going to make it here, but I could not get past the specificity. The far side of the sun. That was not a generic detail. That was a precise detail. The same precise detail that had been placed in my mind while I was clinically dead on the side of Interstate 40. The third confirmation came the night before I was supposed to go home. Mary had gone back to the house to get things ready for my return. I was alone. I could not sleep. I was too restless, too full of this thing I was carrying around. I asked a night nurse if there was a Bible I could borrow. She came back a little later with a Gideon Bible, the kind that is in every hospital bedside drawer and motel room across this country. I held it for a while without opening it. I was not sure what I was looking for. I was not trying to do the thing where you close your eyes and open it randomly and point to a verse and call that a word from God. I respect people who find meaning in that practice, but it is not my way. I am too practical for it. I just let the book fall open on its own. It opened to the book of Joel, chapter 2. My eyes moved across the page and settled on verse 31 before I was even consciously reading. It said that the sun will be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. I read it again. Then something on the opposite page caught my attention. Not caught, jumped. It felt like the words were higher than the rest of the page, somehow raised up, demanding to be looked at. It was in Acts chapter 2, verse 20. Almost the same words. The sun turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and notable day of the Lord comes. I sat with those two passages for a long time. I am not the kind of person who sees signs everywhere. I do not read meaning into coincidences easily. But this did not feel like a coincidence. It felt like a handshake. Like something reaching across from one side of a divide to the other side where I was sitting, taking my hand and saying, yes, this is real. You did not imagine it. 3 confirmations in 3 days. The dream with the calendar, the nurse's casual comment about the far side solar eruption, the scripture that opened itself to me in a hospital room late at night when I was alone and afraid. I went home the next day, May 17th. My back was still in bad shape, so I spent most of my time in my recliner. Mary would bring me coffee in the morning and sit with me for a while before she went to work. The house was quiet. I had time to think, which is both a gift and a problem for a man who has something heavy on his mind. I thought about my kids. David, my son, is an engineer in Ohio. He is 31. He is a good man, hardworking, steady. But he had drifted away from faith somewhere in his mid-20s. Not in an angry way, not in the way of someone who has a grievance with God. More in the way of someone who just got busy and let it slide and then one day realized it had been so long that going back felt awkward. He does not mock people who believe. He just does not engage with it himself. I did not know how to call him and say what I needed to say. Sarah, my daughter, is different. She believes. She has always believed. Even as a kid, she was more naturally inclined toward faith than David was. She lives in Florida with her husband, Marcus, and their 2 kids, my grandchildren, Ella, who is 7, and James, who is 4. Marcus is a good man, but faith is not part of his world. He is not hostile about it, but he is not interested either. Sarah moves carefully around that difference in their marriage. I knew that calling her and telling her what I had seen would put her in a difficult position with Marcus. I was scared of both conversations. I am going to be honest about that. Not scared of my kids. Scared of what they would think. Scared that they would look at me the way I used to look at people who stood up in church, claiming to hear from God. That tired, patient, slightly embarrassed look that says, "Bless your heart, we hope you feel better soon." I prayed again. This time I said something like, "I do not know how to do this. I do not know who to tell or how to say it. I am not built for this. You are going to have to taught me how to do what you are asking me to do, because I do not have this in me on my own." I sat with that prayer for a few days. I did not get a dramatic answer. No angel appeared in my living room. No voice came from the ceiling. What I got was something quieter, a growing sense of clarity about what I was supposed to do. Not a feeling of certainty that everything would go well or that people would believe me. Just a clarity about the fact that I was supposed to say what I had seen to the people I knew first, and then if they received it, wider. I called David first. It was a Wednesday evening around 7 his time. He answered on the second ring the way he always does. He asked how I was feeling. We talked for a few minutes about the accident, about the heart attack, about the doctors and the recovery plan. He said he had been worried. I knew he had because Mary had told me he called 3 times while I was in the hospital. David does not call 3 times unless he is genuinely concerned. He keeps his emotions close, like me. Then I told him I needed to tell him something. I said it the same way I had said it to Mary. Just let me say all of it first, he agreed. He got quiet. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. And I told him the whole thing, the white light, the beings, Jesus, the 3 calendars, the 3 waves. I said it plainly, without embellishment, the way I would brief a supervisor on a situation in emergency management. Just the facts, in order, as clearly as I could state them. When I finished, there was silence. A long silence, long enough that I checked the phone to make sure we had not been disconnected. Then David said, "Dad, you were dead for 4 minutes," I said. "I know," he said. "The brain does things during oxygen deprivation. There is a lot of research on it," I said. "I know that too," he said. "I am not saying you did not experience something. I am sure you experienced something. But you have to understand how this sounds." I said, "I know exactly how this sounds. That is why it took me a week to call you. I am not asking you to believe it because I believe it. I am asking you to just hold on to it. Write the dates down. May 29th, July 3rd, 4th and 5th, October 17th through 20th. Write them down and watch what happens. If nothing happens, then you have lost nothing but a few dates on a calendar. But if something happens, I want you to be ready." There was another silence. Then he said, "Okay, I will write them down." And I could tell from his voice that he was doing it to humor me, because he loves me, because I had just had a heart attack and he was not going to argue with his father who had just come home from the hospital. I understood that. I did not push. I just said thank you, and that I loved him, and we talked about ordinary things for a few more minutes and then said goodbye. The call with Sarah was different. She cried when I started telling her. Not from disbelief. From recognition. She said, "Dad, before I even knew about your accident, I was having dreams." She had not told Marcus. She had not told anyone. But for 2 weeks before May 14th, she had been having vivid dreams about darkness and about the sun, and about being told to stay inside. She said she had dismissed them because she could not make sense of them. But when I started describing what I had seen, she said she felt something move through her. A confirmation from the inside. We talked for 2 hours that night. We prayed together over the phone. I had not prayed with Sarah since she was a teenager. It was one of the most meaningful 2 hours I have spent in a long time. She asked me what she should do. She was thinking about her kids. She was thinking about Marcus. She was thinking about practical things, food, water, having a plan for if the power went out. I told her about the warning darkness in May. I told her that May 29th was not the end of the world. It was a beginning, a chance. I told her the most important thing she could do between now and then was make sure her own relationship with God was real and close, not assumed. And then to pray for Marcus. Not argue with him, not lecture him, just pray and love him and let God do what only God can do. She asked if she should tell other people. I said that was between her and God. I told her what I was going to do. I was going to write it down, all of it, as clearly and as plainly as I could, and I was going to put it where people could find it, not to be dramatic, not to start a movement, but because he showed it to me for a reason. He did not show it to a preacher or a prophet or someone who had a platform. He showed it to a logistics man from Tennessee with a bad back and a practical mind. I think there is a reason for that. I think he wanted someone who would resist the urge to make it bigger than it is. Someone who would just say what he saw and then step back. So that is what I am doing. I am John Miller. I am 54 years old. I spent 22 years in the army and another 10 in emergency management. I am not a preacher. I am not a prophet. 3 weeks ago I died on the side of Interstate 40 for 4 minutes, and what I saw while I was gone is what I have written here. May 29th is coming. I do not know what form it will take exactly. I know what he showed me about the solar storm and the electronics and the power and the panic, but the specific details of how it unfolds in the physical world, I cannot know in advance. What I know is that he showed it to me as a warning, as a mercy, as the first and easiest moment in a sequence of events to turn toward him before the next thing comes. If you are reading this and you believe me, I am asking you to do something simple. Get your relationship with God real and current, not comfortable and assumed, real. Talk to him. Say the true things. Do the things you have been putting off doing. Forgive the people you have been carrying unforgiveness toward. Get right with the people around you. If you are reading this and you do not believe me, I understand. I would not have believed me 3 weeks ago. All I ask is that you write the dates down. May 29th, July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. October 17th through 20th, Keep them somewhere you can find them. Watch what happens. I am not trying to frighten you. He did not show me these things to produce fear. The word that kept coming back to me through all of it was mercy. Even in the hard things, even in the darkest parts of what he showed me, the offer was always mercy. The chance to choose, the chance to be covered. My back hurts as I write this. It will probably always hurt, but I am alive, and I am a man who has been given something to say. So I am saying it as plainly and as honestly as I know how. May 29th, 2026. I do not know what your life looks like right now. I do not know what you are carrying or what you are afraid of or what you have given up on. But I know that there is still time. Right now, today, there is still time to make the choice that matters more than any other choice you will ever make. That is all I have. I am just a man from Tennessee, a logistics specialist, a grandfather who worries about his grandkids in Florida. And I am telling you the truth.